So is that time for my response to a tweet? Yes, that's my response to a tweet. And today's tweet says, it seems like this generation is being tested like no other before it. It seems like this generation is being tested like no others before it. Wow. Very, very interesting tweet. Very, very interesting mode of concern. Well, here's my response. Every generation gets tested. Every single one. The difference between this generation and all the ones before it, there's a couple few differences. These are the ones I'm going to point out. First of all, the generations before us, probably 2 generations back, starting from there forward, they weren't generations that had so many different means of getting information. This technology age has really did a whamboozle on what's going on with all the challenges that we face here in America. One, the generations way before us, let's say the TV age, all they had was 3 channels. They had 3 sources of information, and on those 3 channels, they had your entertainment stuff going on, they had your talk shows, they had your soap operas, they might have had some kids programming on Saturdays, but they had the 3 major anchors. And they had a philosophy in journalism with, if you didn't have 3 or more sources, you didn't say anything about the issue. You did some research. You went and just didn't take somebody's word for it. You basically asked, you did a whole bunch of research, and then you shot your shot. And so that's how it used to be. And so the news anchors, because there was so much research done before they led with a story, all 3 of them typically was on the same sheet of music. The agenda was to get to the truth. And that's why the Walter Cronkites of the world and those people back then, they were so trusted, because the research that went into disseminating information, they did it with caution, because misleading somebody, misleading our country, misleading a neighborhood, misleading a community was not in the cards for them. They had a certain kind of level of respect and integrity for where a mind can go. You know, where a mind goes, a body follows. But this is what was happening back then. And they had to get it right because there was not that much competition. You know, for you to leave one of the networks alone to go to the other 2 because they were accurate was something that was very, very substantial. It was very, very well in their thought process, and it just couldn't happen. Another thing, too, that happened way back then is the educational system had a critical thinking component. You had to figure out ways to think about this for yourself, which required evidence, information gathering, so that when you formulate your thought process or your outcome, you had to critically think a bunch of different parts at the same time to come up with something that works for you, that benefits not only you, but they were raised with the dynamic too that if you go out there and look bad, you make the family look bad. And if the family looks bad, then the community looks bad. And if the community looks bad, then the city's going to look bad. So it started there with you. So you went out with a responsibility not to bring any shame on your family, which spreads into the community and your city and your state or whatnot. So you had critical thinking skills, and you had reporters that got facts before they opened their mouths. They got it from 3 or 4 different sources. They had to be credible sources. Matter of fact, compared to now, they had to be incredible sources. And that was the integrity of journalism and the media, because it understood its responsibility. And then the last dynamic, the media knew its constitutional protection was based on what? Them checking and fact checking what the government is trying to tell you. The media protected the citizens against propaganda coming out of the government, no matter if it was Republican or Democrat. And so they took those three avenues serious. Making sure the stuff was credible that they're speaking on. The public was critical thinkers, making sure that they got their facts right before they went out there and participated. And a check on the government. It is the only entity, private entity, that is protected by the Constitution. The media. They call it the fourth estate. And it was a check and balance on somebody who has the ability to change your life with the stroke of a pen. They made sure that they checked them before they stroked your life away. But now you flash forward to now. This is the dynamic we have now. You have 500 gazillion channels of news on cable. You have the internet. So you have multiple sources of getting information there. You have, just everything. Your smartphones, technology has made it so that the media doesn't double check and triple check. They got to get it out there first. It's who gets it out there first. And so they are not fact checking stuff, and they're just throwing stuff out there so that they can be the first to get your attention. And then when you add the second component of what I'm saying, you have a public that are not critical thinkers. The public has got an avenue now to where they can be seen and heard. And so you got the public out there that don't care about facts or anything like this. They don't care about safety. They don't care about embarrassing themselves, which in turn embarrasses their family, which in turn embarrasses their community, and so forth and so on. They don't care about being embarrassing. And these kind of things are making millions upon millions of dollars. A dude could be butt naked going down the street in a shopping cart with an ironing board, swearing up and down he's making an airplane, and he can get some media attention. But somebody does something good, rescues a cat from the tree, the media is not there. And then the third dynamic. The media has become an advocate for a certain position. And so they mold the media. They use that wonderful constitutional protection that they have to voice their opinion using the news avenue to do it. They have become advocates for a position versus fact checking. And so once the media became an advocate for a position, our educational institutions that's supposed to do critical thinking have become advocates for a certain position. And our politicians have become an advocate for a certain position. So we have too much advocacy, and there is no media out there to check it. The advocacy is for an individual's position, and then with all these avenues on the internet and things of this nature, they can go find somebody that advocates for their position. And so then that becomes, using this apparatus and this legitimacy of radio, of TV, of these kind of dynamics, now the computer, the public says if it's seen on TV, it must be true. But you have a reporter that's now an advocate and they're not a journalist. And so what is happening is, with this generation, you have, with the media being majority liberal, the educational institutions majority liberal, and over these definitely last 7 years, last 12, 16 years, you have a majority liberal Congress. And even if the liberals is in the minority, they have a majority liberal media that has become an advocate to where they're all advocating for this liberal position. And so what you have is liberal answers or more so, liberal responses to American issues when the Constitution should be the answer. And we all know liberalism is at odds with the Constitution. And so the answer to your question, no, yes, they are being tested, but they have too many sources of information to where they're coming up with all the wrong answers. And once again, that's liberalism. We have to understand those dynamics. But, hey, that's my response to a tweet on the Phil Williams Show.